Srila Prabhupada ki. So, the reason we're speaking a little bit this evening is because one time Srila Prabhupada said, he said, my books are just word jugglery to convince us to chant Hare Krishna. So, in essence, the essence of Krishna consciousness is that by chanting Hare Krishna, we can revive our dormant Krishna consciousness, our dormant spiritual nature. In the Shastra it is said, Anavriti Shabda, that by sound one can be liberated, or one can be reawakened. Just like the sound of the alarm clock. What happens when the alarm clock goes off in the morning? What do? We hit the snooze button, right? Sometimes we don't even bother to set the alarm when we go to bed at night. But generally, if you're young and you don't even have an alarm clock, you have the sound of mum or dad coming in. Come on, wake up! It's time to get ready for school. Oh, let me sleep a bit longer. So we're a bit like that in the material world. We don't really want to get up. We don't want to wake up. There's ignorance is bliss. That's the saying, right? But actually, when you wake up, life is exciting. Who's ever woken up? Let's say, for instance, when it's Christmas Day, right? That's a good example. Whenever it's Christmas, people want to wake up. When I was a young boy, and our children, no matter what time you've been to bed, you'll be up at like 5 o'clock in the morning because you're excited to wake up. So the point is that by sound, one can be liberated. So chanting Hare Krishna is the essence of everything. By chanting Hare Krishna, we reawaken our dormant spiritual consciousness. And the spiritual nature of everyone is that they are Sat, Chit, Ananda. Eternal, full of knowledge and full of bliss. Or, eternal, sentient, and full of bliss. Like who read nursery rhymes when they're younger? Anyone? Not nursery rhymes, sorry, like fairy tales. How does a fairy tale always end? Yeah, and they lived happily ever after, right? So that's Satchidananda. They lived, that's Chit, sentient, happily, Ananda, ever after. In other words, eternal, Satchidananda. So every fairy tale we ever read always ends with, and they lived happily ever after. Because that's actually the nature of the soul, to live happily ever after. That's what we all want. When we're in this material body, we're forced to, the material body goes through 6 changes. It's born, it grows. Like just recently I went to see my sisters and my family for Boxing Day, 27th, 28th and 29th. And every time we see my family, we have a tallest to smallest photo. And there's loads of us. My sister's got, there's her husband and she's got 4 boys. My other sister's got a boy and a girl. Then there's myself and Jagannath Aishri. We've got Haridas and Nadja, and then my mum. So we have this every year, tallest to smallest photo. Now this year was the first year that I was usurped from the top position as being the tallest. My nephew Tom, he's 18 now, he is now taller than me, and he's built like an American footballer. The youth, of today, they like to go down to the gym, They're not into drinking and smoking, they all want to drink protein shakes and go to the gym. So yes, in other words, my point is we're growing, right? So a few years ago, he was towards the end. Now he's overtaken us. So we're born, we grow, we remain for some time, we produce some byproducts, children. The body produces other byproducts. This is a very clinical way of putting it. And then we dwindle, and then we die. That's the material body, but we're not the body, we're the soul, we're the consciousness within the body. And like it is said, energy is never created nor destroyed, it is simply transformed. So we are that spiritual spark of energy, the Atma, or the Jiva in Sanskrit, which is eternal, full of knowledge and full of bliss. So therefore, we want to live happily ever after, like in the fairy tales. So the reason we're speaking today is because, yes, the essence is that we just chant Hare Krishna, but sometimes we lose our inspiration to chant Hare Krishna, right? Put your hands up if you're always enthusiastic to chant Hare Krishna. Put your hands up if sometimes it's a little bit of a struggle. But who finds that when they're in the association of the devotees, it's a lot easier? Yeah. So therefore we need to have the association of the devotees, we need to hear the philosophy to inspire us to chant like that. And today, not only are we chanting here in the temple, but we're also going to go out and chant in Newcastle. Now, you might be thinking, wow, that's a bit scary. There's going to be loads of people out there drunk and this and that. They're not going to want to see us. So we need a bit of convincing. Firstly, I would just say that's not true. Sometimes we go down there. One time we went down there and I met these two guys from Durham. And they both bought a book from us and they were really inspired. And then they came next year specifically because they wanted to meet us. We saw them again, like, we knew you guys were going to be here. We came specifically because we wanted to see you singing and dancing Hare Krishna. So yes, the title of this little talk, in one sense like a pep talk, to give ourselves a pep talk to inspire us, is Krishna consciousness is life-changing. So, put your hands up. Who here has had a life-changing experience? Okay. Would anyone like to share? What is their life-changing experience? It doesn't have to be anything to do with Krishna consciousness. It could be the day you met your wife, or someone put your hand up. Sanjay, you had your hand up. Life-changing experience.
Yeah, I can name two things. One is coming to this temple for the first time. It was 2003. I was walking past this road, going up one of the Indian shops up there with my friend, Rohit. And then I heard the sound of cymbals. And I asked my friend, let's go and see what's happening. So now I said, let's go and see what's happening. It's very nice. For me, it was because I was a student, I was doing university accommodation, and suddenly hearing sound of cymbals, I was like, wow, what is that? It's totally, and I've never been to this one temple before in my life. So, and then I walked in, and that time there was a middle between these two rooms, and that room was the shop or books room and shop room, incense sticks, everything, all the books. So I saw that room, I came in. I'm not sure if I came into the temple room first or I went to the middle room first. But in the middle room there was lots of Prabhupada's books. One of the book was Acharya, blue book, with there was the 26 pages of 26 qualities of Acharya, Srila Prabhupada. And as I was turning the pages, this is my first time seeing Srila Prabhupada in the pages. And I was not even reading, just quality and seeing his picture. I was starting each page, I just thought, I know this person. And I felt so connected, and I felt very much at home. Then I walked into the room, the temple room. First thing I saw, Srila Prabhupada was sitting. And as soon as I saw Srila Prabhupada, I just couldn't have any definition what the relationship. I thought, I know this person, he's mine or I'm his, something like that. I felt very much at home. And that's it, it's the same floor 20 years later. I'm still sitting there. It's amazing. And also in this temple, first time I met my wife.
And they lived happily ever after. Wonderful, thank you for sharing that. It's really nice to hear. And so you heard the chanting, and then you came here, and you were inspired, and here you are, and then through the temple, then you met your wife. And I was even thinking, I wasn't necessarily thinking for any kind of Krishna conscious examples, but sometimes people have a near-death experience. Sometimes people, they they have like a near-death experience, and then when they come back, they feel like, oh, I've had a second chance, right? It's like, okay, this time I'm gonna do it properly. Or just like, for instance, Anthony Joshua, the boxer, right? He just, a couple of weeks ago, he was fighting, the influencer, Jake Paul, and he won about $92 million in this fight. But then just this weekend, he was involved in a car crash in Nigeria. And two of his friends, his best friends and his coaches, unfortunately left their body. They passed away. But Anthony Joshua, he survived. So, condolences to those persons. But just think, if you're in an experience like that, that is a life-changing experience, is it not? Or let's say, for instance, when you have children, that changes your life, right? And sometimes people say that when you have children, the first time you see your children, you just instantly fall in love with them. And I would say to some degree that's true, but I don't think it's exactly like that. Like for me, when I now look back at, because when my children were born, I didn't know who they were. Do you know what I mean? Like you see them and they're there, they've got a name, you've given them a name, but you don't really know them. But then as they grow up and they start to develop their own personality, their own sense of humour, their own little, things which are charming or melt your heart. And it's like you love them more and more each day. Now when I look back at photos of my children when they were babies, I was like, oh yeah, now I know who he is, or now I know who she is. But the point is, these are life-changing experiences. Now the thing is, these things, they may change our life in this lifetime, but Krishna consciousness changes our life not only in this lifetime, but in the next, and in the next, ad infinitum. Krishna consciousness can change our position, and it can then put us on a journey out of this material world. It's described that we've been in this material world since time immemorial, caught in the cycle of samsara, the cycle of repeated birth and death. But somehow or another, when we come across Krishna consciousness, or we meet devotees, like we're going out tonight, or just like, and I'm sorry, I don't mean to embarrass you, Chloe. So for instance, the other day, Varna was out in Newcastle, and she met Chloe, and Chloe's, you're like I would say, can I describe you as you're a spiritual seeker? Oh, a seeker? Yeah, a seeker. So when she met Varna showed her the Bhagavad Gita, right? You said like, oh, this seems like this is synchronistic. We were supposed to have met today, So you met Varna, you bought a book from her, and then you've come along today, and hopefully you'll have a nice experience. You're having a nice experience so far?
I feel really connected and grateful, so thank you everybody, and just this day.
Oh, that's wonderful. Well, you're so welcome. You're so welcome. And it's really inspiring, because for us, we feel like that when we discover this wisdom and these spiritual practices, we feel it makes us happy, it makes us peaceful. And the reason we go out is because we want to try and share that with others. Like we often give the example, if you've seen something good on TV or something on Netflix or whatever it is, you tell people, hey, you've got to check out this new television program, it's really good, So in the same way. But Krishna consciousness, it can change our course completely out of the material world. Srila Prabhupada says in one of his purports, he says that Krishna consciousness is so powerful that once begun, one will be forcibly dragged to success. Of course, we don't want to be dragged to success. Like sometimes when the police, they used to say, come with me, come quietly, or I will take you by force. Not that I've ever been arrested, but that's what they say. So it's better to come quietly. So in Krishna consciousness, we don't want Krishna to drag us out of the material world. We want to go voluntarily. And not quietly, we want to go singing Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Like that. So, Krishna consciousness in the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 2, text 40, Krishna says, Nihabakrama nashosti prachavayana vidyate swapamapyasyadamasha trayato mahato bayat. He says, in this endeavour there is no loss or diminution, and a little advancement on this path can protect one from the most dangerous type of fear. And what that really means is that if we make 1% advancement in spiritual life, then in our next lifetime we start off from the point of 2%. In other words, you never lose. Any spiritual progress you make, you never lose that. But materially, whatever you gain, you cannot keep it. It's temporary. You know, even if you have everything you want throughout your whole life, at some point we have to leave this body. And you cannot take it with you. You're born into this world with nothing. Actually, you're born into the world with a body, but you leave without your body. Can't even take the body with you. So therefore, we shouldn't only endeavour for material things because they're temporary, but we should ultimately endeavour for spiritual perfection, for enlightenment, which will allow us to live happily ever after. Now, I was going to ask whose life has been changed by Krishna consciousness. So Satya already gave us a nice example there. Anyone else whose life has been changed? And don't say, you know, hopefully for the better. Don't say, yeah, ever since I came to Krishna consciousness I've just been miserable and, you know, I can't get it together. We don't want any examples like that. No, has anyone's life been changed by Krishna consciousness? Come on, don't be shy. Come on, someone give me something. I mean, I can give myself as an example. Vasu, go on.
Yeah, myself is like, I've been raised in a Krishna conscious family, but I was, of course, I spent early days of my life in Krishna consciousness, living in the ashram and things like that. But when I came out, I was like a normal kid doing all sorts of things, but somehow or the other, one of the devotees pushed me to read Prabhupada books, and I can say where I am now, it's because of reading Prabhupada's books. And so they do really work, I can see myself.
Nice. Yeah, and I think we've all had that example. I think most of us can say our life has changed for the better, right? Where, you know, like, even just one example, when I was at university and I came across Krishna consciousness, I couldn't stop smoking. I was addicted to smoking, and sometimes smoking things that you can't buy in the shops. And but it wasn't until I started practicing Krishna consciousness seriously that I was able to give those things up. I'd been struggling for some time, but I was able to give it up. So I feel like my life has improved in many, many ways. Now, one thing I wanted to say was, generally, how do people come across Krishna consciousness? Now, nowadays a lot of people find Krishna consciousness online. Right? That's a fact. People will watch a reel on Instagram or TikTok or something like that. But there's nothing like the old-fashioned way of, you know, just meeting a devotee. So generally there are three ways that people come across Krishna consciousness. And that is either by hearing the Hare Krishna mantra, or by receiving a book, or by getting some prasadam. So it's described that just like Maya, she has her three-pronged trident. And you know, we're suffering the threefold miseries: Adi Bhautika Klesha, Adi Daivika Klesha, and Adi Atmika Klesha. That means in life, everyone is suffering somehow or another from miseries coming from their own body and mind. Right? As you get older, you notice that more. Like I run, and I've got plantar fasciitis in my left heel. And I just did a race on the 28th of December, and my body's really aching now. So misery is coming from our body and mind. Then misery is coming from natural phenomenon. I.e., it's very cold at the moment, right? Some of you might be thinking, oh God, I don't want to go out chanting in Nikisa, it's too cold, you know? I'd rather just go home and snuggle by the fire. And then misery is coming from other living entities. You know, I don't know. Someone cuts you up at the traffic lights, or someone calls you a horrible name or something like that. When I was in Morpeth the other day, I met a couple and they were really nice and they bought a book from me and gave a donation to help with our work. And then they said, oh, we've seen you here before. One time we saw you and there was this guy, he was just having a go at you. You know, there was a guy on the street. He was from some other religion and he was basically telling me that I was going to hell, you know, and all this. And he was really having a go at me. And they said, yeah, we saw this guy, he was having a go at you. They said, but we were very impressed because you were very tolerant and you weren't reacting to him. And I was thankful that they'd caught me in a good light. But, you know, I wasn't wanting that person to come up and have a go at me, but sometimes that happens, right? Misery is coming from other living entities. So to counteract the three modes of, the three types of miseries that we cannot escape from this material world, we have our three-pronged attack of books, the holy name, and prasadam. So I'll just give myself as a little example. The first time I saw devotees chanting Hare Krishna, I was in Prague, travelling around Europe with some friends before I went to university, and we were walking through the centre of Prague, and all of a sudden, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare. There was these, I didn't know who or what they were, but there was these, like, you know, bright orangely dressed monks just singing and dancing down the centre of the city centre in Prague, and I was like, wow, what is this? I wanted to just join in, you know? Just like, oh, I want to join in with this. Look, this looks fun. This looks great. That was the first time I ever I heard the Hare Krishna mantra. And then the first book I ever got was when I was at university. One of my friends had a book in his room. And he was the guy that I used to buy my funny cigarettes from. And basically, I read that book and I was like, wow, this is what I've been looking for. It was like, because I was looking for something in life and I came across this book and it just something resonated with me. I was like, yes, this is what I've been looking for. This is that higher wisdom. This is this lost knowledge. This is this deeper meaning to life. And the first time I had prasadam, I remember the first time I offered something to Krishna. I offered a jacket potato to Krishna. I'd spent 3 hours making ghee, because I had the book, Hare Krishna Book of Vegetarian Cooking. Harry Boltanajay. Nice to see you. And it said in the book that we should best to make our own ghee. So I spent so long making this ghee that I didn't have time to cook anything. So I just made a little jacket potato and I put it in the microwave and I offered it to Krishna. You know, just very simple offering to Krishna. I just said, you know, my dear Lord Krishna, please accept this jacket potato. And I just offered this potato to Krishna. And when I ate that potato, I've been eating jacket potatoes from the microwave my whole life. But when I ate that jacket potato, that was like no other jacket potato I'd ever had. It was like, yeah, it was like a jacket potato from the spiritual world. It was like, wow, there was something there because I'd offered it to Krishna. So, yeah, in the same way, I never planned to, you know, like when I became a monk, you know, I lived as a monk in the temple in Scotland for 13 years, and people would often ask me, well, why did you become a monk? And I was like, yeah, it's a good point. I never had plans to become a monk. But sometimes life takes its own course. You never know what life has in store for you. Man proposes and God disposes. And there are many examples like this. Devotees have all got different nice stories about how they came to Krishna consciousness. But I guess what we're trying to say is we're trying to inspire us to go out and share Krishna consciousness with others. So let me just ask for a show of hands now. Who enjoys some or all aspects of Krishna consciousness? Put your hands up. Yeah. Okay, what do you like the best, Anutama? Association of devotees. Very good. Sia, what do you like best about Krishna consciousness? Sorry? Prasadam. Very good, yes. Yeah, me too, me too. Tavesh, what do you like best about Krishna consciousness? Everything. Everything. Wonderful. Haribol Saraswati. Nice to see. What do you like best about Krishna consciousness?
Wow, that's a long list. I don't know what comes best. I don't know. I like chanting, I like prasadam.
Chanting
I
prasadam?
like worshipping deities.
Yeah.
So many things.
And if you don't... Yeah. And if you don't mind me asking, how long have you been practicing Krishna consciousness for now?
A long time.
A long time.
46 years.
46 years. That deserves a round of applause. That's a round of applause.
Not enough to be better than I am.
That's a very humble answer, which is a sign of an advanced devotee. But the point is, we all like Krishna consciousness. And who would like to see more people at the temple? Like tonight, there's not so many of us here, right? There's only a few of us. So so therefore, if people won't come to the temple, we have to take the temple to them. I think there's that expression, something like, if Muhammad won't come to the mountain, take the mountain to Muhammad. Something along those lines, right? So if people don't come to the temple, and let's say on a good day, we may have, like on a festival, we may have 100 people here. Right? And that's wonderful. But, how many people live in Newcastle? Oh. About 250,000, something like that. Yeah, what were you saying, Anutma? Oh, how many people here? Well, probably here tonight, we might have about 20 or 30, something like that. But Dan and Joy said there's about 250,000 people. And therefore, if they're not coming to the temple tonight, they're going to be out in the middle of town trying to enjoy their senses by, whatever means possible. I was saying to, when I was speaking with Chloe earlier, I was remembering when I were a lad, and, it was New Year's Eve. That was the pinnacle of, enjoyment. It's like, oh, it's New Year's Eve, where are we going to go? And I remember so many times I remember a couple of times when I was really young, and I just drank so much that I just passed out in the corner. I drank like a bottle of vodka or something, and I just passed out in the corner. It was like New Year's Eve promised so much, but just never delivered. So ultimately people are going out tonight because they want to be happy. And it's not that you can't find happiness in material enjoyment. You can. Of course you can. But it's temporary, and it doesn't really satisfy the heart. And therefore we have to keep on chasing it again and again and again, trying to find something new, Prahlad Maharaj, he says this is chewing the chewed, puna panas chavanananam. It's like if you get some chewing gum, once you've chewed it all, you've got all the flavour out, it's a bit like, oh. So then you take it out and you put it somewhere, right? And then you come back 2 weeks later and say, oh, maybe there's a bit of juice in that chewing gum, and you put it in again and say, oh, that's not really doing it, So material happiness is like that. It doesn't really ever quite promise. But Krishna consciousness is Anandam Buddhivadana. This happiness is ever increasing. Like we said, Saraswati said she's been chanting Hare Krishna for 46 years. Now, you may have your favourite song. Like I remember, now whenever we get in the car, when you have children, the car stereo, it doesn't belong to you anymore. It belongs to the children. And I remember one time when it was Halloween, Haridas was really into the Ghostbusters theme song. And we drove down to my mum's house like 3.5 hours ago away, and I swear we must have listened to Ghostbusters theme tune about 25 times in a row. I was like, oh my God. If I listen to that song one more time, I'm going to go mad. But you can carry on singing Hare Krishna for 46 years. You never get enough of it. You always want more. Because it's not a material sound vibration. It's a transcendental sound vibration. And it's non-different from Krishna. So when people come across the sound vibration of the Hare Krishna mantra, they don't always know what it is, but it does something to them. I remember the first time I chanted Hare Krishna, I was in the woods in France. I was on an archaeological dig we had to abandon the dig because it was raining, and I just went off on my own. I'd been reading Prabhupada's books, and I just started chanting Hare Krishna because Prabhupada said we should chant Hare Krishna, so I just started chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare. And I just started on my own, in the rain, in the woods, I just started chanting and dancing. And I did that for about 15 minutes, and I just never felt a happiness like it. I'd never experienced anything like that, and I felt like, looking back, it was like, yeah, that was my first connection with Krishna, maybe for millions of lifetimes. That's what the heart is looking for, that's what we're really looking for. So by going out tonight, everyone's going out to try and find some happiness. And people, will look for happiness in different ways. But whatever they get, it's temporary, it doesn't fully satisfy. But when people come across the Hare Krishna mantra, when people come across devotees, when people come across this wisdom that's in Prabhupada's books, that is the thing that will truly make people happy. Now, just while I finish this, I'm giving you lots of philosophical reasons, right? But who's still a little bit nervous about going out? Maybe? Anyone? Yeah, it's a bit nerve-wracking. Firstly, we might see someone we know, right? And then, hey, what are you doing with the Hare Krishnas? It's like, what are you doing, Like, my wife is a teacher, and sometimes we go out singing and dancing in Newcastle, and sometimes she sees some of her students. It's like, oh no, I saw some of my students, they're going to be like, taking the mickey out of me in the lessons on Monday. But we just may feel a little bit nervous or not sure what to expect, a bit apprehensive. But what I would say is that every time we go out, as I say, we end up with about 50 people following us back because they're enjoying it so much. It's like we're better than what they've gone out to do. Every year, people come back with us. People love it, people are filming us, people are taking photos, people are waving, people really, really enjoy it. So, lastly, the last point I'm going to make is that in order to make advancement in spiritual life, there are two things we have to hear about and experience. So one thing is the happiness of spiritual life. If we're not getting any pleasure, then we're not going to do it, right? So we need to hear about it and we need to be able to experience it. But we also need to hear about and experience the misery of a materialistic life. And to some degree, we've all experienced that. That's why we've come here, for something, a positive alternative to the madness of modern life. We've all had a go at it. It doesn't ever quite satisfy. So when we go out chanting in the streets like we're going to do today, we will experience two things simultaneously. The bliss of being with devotees and chanting Hare Krishna, and we will also see the so-called happiness of material life and realise that actually it isn't all it's cracked up to be. We will see people collapsed, drunk, we do every year in the doorways, just like they've gone out with looking, really excited and they've just end up, crashed out, intoxicated in a shop doorway or something like that. So we'll see all those things. But also, by doing this, it's very pleasing to Krishna, and when Krishna is pleased, then we also become pleased as well. So it's a wonderful opportunity, so we encourage you all, please come and join us tonight. We'll stop there. Does anyone have any questions or comments or any reflections? Something that you've heard that's maybe inspired or resonated with you? Okay, well, I'll share a reflection. I'm inspired to hear and see that after 46 years of chanting, and I guess between the two of you, 92 years of chanting Hare Krishna. The fact you're still here.
I thought you were going to say of marriage.
92 years of marriage. Yes, the fact that you're both here, you've come along to come out and chant with us, or at least to come here and chant now in the temple, whether you're coming out with us or whether you're just chanting here. I think that's inspiring, and it's testimony to the fact that you cannot carry on doing something for that long unless you're getting some taste, unless you're getting some pleasure from it. So thank you. Okay, if there's no questions or comments, we will stop there and we will move on to the next part of the program. Srila Prabhupada ki? Yeah, so far we did kirtan to start with, we've done our dramas, we've had a little talk, and I think now we were going to have a little quiz or the reading. I'm not sure which thing we should do now. Just give me a second, I'll just find out. Jagannath Shri?